Well then, some more twists and turns in the head coach saga at Wolves. I'm going to be giving you guys the latest of what is going on. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below and hit that like button. I don't know what to say about some of the reports that we've been seeing over the last day or so. I gave you guys an update on Wednesday with what was going on. There was a whole Lopetegui saga where he had obviously rejected Wolves. Pedro Martins, was he in advanced talks? Was he not? And today has been a sensational run of news and stories about former head coach Nuno Espirito Santo returning to the club. So split. This is so split, and as you can imagine, I'm sat straight down the middle of it because part of me would really be intrigued and love to see Nuno back, and the other, probably more sensible part of me would thinks it's a daft decision. Basically, that's what I want to hear your thoughts on, because like I said, it is so split right now on social media. They're talking about it a load on the radio and in news outlets. And like I said, it is really split. It broke quite early this morning that George Mendes' right-hand man, Valdir Cardoso, is currently in Saudi Arabia, where Nuno is managing right now, to look at a potential deal between Wolves and the club's former head coach. Of course, since his departure from Wolves, Nuno went on to manage Tottenham Hotspur for a short while and then got sacked from that role quite quickly. And since the summer, not so long ago, just a few months ago, he's been managing Saudi club Al Ittihad, where in Saudi Arabia right now, he's doing okay, but just sort of grinding out results. Some fans believe his football is boring, as many Wolves fans would have witnessed over the sort of towards the end of the Nuno era at Wolves. So it's really interesting to see. Obviously, Nuno and his staff are going to be on quite lucrative contracts right now in Saudi Arabia. So I think Wolves would have to pay a decent amount of compensation. The president of Al Ittihad had said that there has been contacts between Wolves and Nuno Espirito Santo regarding a potential return. But other reports are now saying that Nuno's camp are really pushing hard to see if they can broker a deal for his return. However, Wolves are still looking at and preferring other candidates. But as of right now, there's no real news on who these other candidates can be. We spoke a little bit about it on the last video about people that had been ruled out. Another manager that was ruled out. There were very small links with Andre Villas-Boas. He's not in the race to become the new head coach at all. So the Nuno thing right now is, I'm sure, going to take a couple more twists and turns. And right now, it doesn't look like there is an end in sight for this saga of a new head coach. Of course, Wolves are playing tomorrow against Nottingham Forest, where we'll still have the caretaker management of Steve Davis and James Collins. It looks like that will be the case on Tuesday against Crystal Palace as well. But like I said, I'm so split on the Nuno thing right now. I think my heart is saying I would love to see him back. There are a lot of doubters. I'd love to see Nuno prove them wrong. He's given me, in my sort of short lifetime, the best memories I've had as a Wolves fan. And obviously we've seen, FA Cup semi-final, although it ended in heartbreak. Europa League journey, which was phenomenal. And I said this on the podcast, and I still believe this. If COVID didn't break the Premier League season, I think there's a very big chance that Nuno would still be our manager today, because I think we would have got European football once again in that second season. And who knows what would have happened in the Europa League, because I believe at that time, before COVID stopped the season, I believe Wolves could have beaten any team across two legs. We looked so good, and the fans were dragging us through. A lot of people have brought up, obviously, the lockdown season where everything was behind closed doors, and I fully appreciate the football was absolutely dreadful. It was painful to watch, and a lot of people insisting that Nuno wouldn't have lasted as long at the club if fans were there. But I really don't think we would have seen that style of football, or at least some of those results, had the fans been in the grounds. So I do fully appreciate both sides of this coin right now, and they do say never go back to an ex. I think there's other sort of candidates out there that people would prefer, but I think anybody that Wolves go for anybody at all, fans will moan or have something negative to pick out of. You could say that about anyone in life. Everyone's going to have their pros. Everyone's going to have their cons. Like I said on the last video, Pedro Martins, there were pros to that. There were cons to that. Lopetegui even had his doubters as well. So I think that's always going to happen. And Wolves obviously had full belief at the time that Lopetegui would become the new head coach of the club. But this sort of plan B hasn't really worked out, and all of a sudden now, you know, for me, Nuno almost looks like the best of a bad bunch. And if people moaning, I would like to see who their potential candidates would be. Wolves, obviously, we've got to pay compensation for. Would have to pay compensation for Nuno. Sorry, so I don't see why they don't sort of look at other managers that they would also have to pay that compensation for as well. Now, to make things more interesting, it was said on Wednesday evening that Wolves had also interviewed former player Rob Edwards. Now, Rob Edwards has had a pretty, although it's been short, a pretty interesting and quite successful, I would say, managerial career so far. Of course, he was the head coach of our under-23s for a short while and did extremely well with them. That was sort of the early stages of Fosun. So Fosun are very much aware of Rob Edwards. He had a little break from sort of youth football. He was managing in the England youth setups for a short while, then went on to manage AFC Telford as well. And now he went on to manage Forest Green, where he did extremely well, got them promoted from League 2 up to League 1. And then quite controversially left that role to go on to join Championship side Watford, where he wasn't doing too badly. I mean, if you look at the results, he was just sat outside the playoffs at the early stage of the season and then was dramatically sacked in typical Watford style. Now, Wolves are said to have interviewed him amongst other candidates. Of course, I'd be extremely shocked if Rob Edwards became the full-time manager of Wolverhampton Wanderers. And I bring up another point that I made last time, maybe in regards to a caretaker or interim manager role. Do you bring someone like Rob Edwards in, a little bit more experience on the management front, to be an interim manager, possibly up until the World Cup, and then look at the Lopetegui situation once again? Wolves, whatever happens, Wolves would have to make that very, very clear. But I think we need some regime in place sooner rather than later. But Nuno Espirito Santo, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him over the next week or so. And obviously Rob Edwards as well. We'll see. There's more news coming out every sort of few hours or so on this. More names being mentioned. But the main two over the last couple of days, well, it's been Nuno and Rob Edwards. Let's wait and see, guys. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you think a return for Nuno would be good for both him, the club, and obviously the fans as well? I'm sure it'll get some of the atmosphere going, because as we know, it's been a little bit flat for the last year or so. As always, guys, be sure to hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you all very, very soon.